So my name is Rourke, and I'm a person in recovery, and for me, how I define that is that I haven't had a drink or a drug in the last 10 years. So, you asked me what's my story, and it's cool getting to tell my story here because I grew up down the street, and that's the first time I've ever been able to do that. So I grew up I was born in Denver, but I grew up in Lafayette, and I had a great life. My parents were wonderful. I had wonderful friends. I was given every opportunity to succeed. I don't ever take that for granted, and I don't ever play that off. I was given every opportunity to succeed, and in spite of that, I still found myself in a situation where I hated who I was. I remember being a little kid, and I remember I must have been 9 or 10, and just thinking, man, I just wish I could die. I hate who I am. And it's weird, you get those snippets, but I just remember that feeling, and that obviously continued on, and then being a teenager and having to go to a school, and I was the smallest kid, and I just got picked on, and I was told that I wasn't enough, and this kind of just reoccurring theme was just created of you're flawed, you're weak, you're not good, you missed the mark. Humanity is this, and you're over here. You just weren't given the tools to do it right. At the time, I was just I'm alone. I'm alone. And so, I'm trying to make it through, and a couple of friends and I had two really good friends, and we get the bright idea of, hey, let's go upstairs and let's take a shot. I'm Irish Catholic, Mom's got the good stuff. We went upstairs, and it was, dude, it was McCormick's spiced rum, and we take one shot each, and it feels so good. And we go downstairs, and we think, we're being real cool. Why don't we do that again? And we go back up, and we come back downstairs, and man, if 2 is good, what's 3 like? And y'all know the story. I mean, I'm not going to surprise everybody. 2 turned into 3, 3 turned into 4, 4 turned into 5, and we kept going until we couldn't see straight. And 2 things with that. One, once I started, there was no stopping it. It fixed everything I wanted. And that was the second thing. I found myself in that. I found confidence. I found happiness. I found acceptance and peace. I like telling that story because the last bit of that story, we had a great time, until we didn't, and then we started, I started seeing double, he started seeing double. I threw up on him, he laughed, I laughed, we hugged. It was really gross, and then we passed out. And it's kind of funny at the same time. Out of the 3 of us that were there, these guys were my best friends at the time. One of them's dead now. The other one has been in and out of jail for as long as I've known. It scared me enough, right, that I didn't pick it up for 2 more years. High school was a bit of a blur. I barely graduated. My mom was the loudest person in the crowd when I came across the stage. I'd gotten a DUI the day before my graduate, before I walked. I had tried to commit suicide once. I had gotten 3 MIPs prior to that DUI. I started cutting, and I was cutting myself on a regular basis. I was inflicting pain. I just hated who I was. Fast forward a year and a half, I stopped going to school. I was working on the mountain. I was a ski instructor, teaching little kids how to ski, just completely blotto. During lunch break, I'd wake up in the morning, I'd actually have to go to this bar that was right on the mountain, and they knew me because when I walked in, they'd pour a tall shot with a straw in it because I couldn't pick it up because I was shaking so bad. So I'd have to do that 3 times before I could pick up the shot and take my own. Once I got home, it was a case of tall boys, and that was my routine. And that's what I did until I couldn't anymore. At this point, I still didn't really know what alcoholism was. I still didn't really know that, you could drink enough alcohol that you would start to hear things if you weren't drinking. And at this point, my hands stopped working. They had started to shrivel up, and I couldn't do anything with them. And I was just vomiting all the time. And the only thing I could keep down was hot sauce packets from Taco Bell. So it was beer, McCormick's, and hot sauce packets. And then, wake up in the day and morning and just try and make it to the afternoon when I could go by again. I am in pain, the likes of which I didn't know was possible. And just trying to make it through this. I knew I was gonna die, I knew it. There wasn't a question in my mind. Tonight was the night. Tonight's the night I'm gonna die. And because nothing can be this painful, and I feel my body dying. With tears in my eyes, I tell my parents, I'm ready to change my ways. I'm ready for this to end. And I found myself at Centennial Peaks at the Detox, and it was the start, right? It was the first time I had been in a place where I really accepted help just for the alcohol, and then there was this thing called IOP, intensive outpatient, and they recommended that I go to this group 3 times a week, and so my parents are kind of going along with this as well. So they say, you can live at the house if you do this program, and I'm like, cool, whatever. This is stupid. I'm not about this, so I'm gonna go, and then I get to do whatever else I want. So Jeannie, who we all, I get to share her name, and because this is for Centennial Peaks, and she was the turning point, right? There's a few people in my life I can point to and be like, yeah, you saved my life, straight up, no questions asked, you saved my life, good for you, thanks. I really appreciate that. I was such a just awful 21-year-old kid, and she just loved up on me, man. I got in there, and it was, don't talk to me. Group setting, IOP, you have 10, 15 people in this group, and I remember prepping before I went to it, hat down, jacket on, and I would scoot my chair back from the circle just to prove I ain't a part of this. And man, she would call me and just be like, Rourke, what do you think about that? And she would continue to push, and she'd get the group to try and help out. And it was 2 fingers up, I'll tell you which ones, and don't talk to me. Just don't talk to me. And God, I did that for 28 days. And on 28 days, St. Patrick's Day comes up, and what is an Irishman to do? But go and drink, and so I went out on St. Patrick's Day, and I had 3 beers, and that was it. So naturally, I'm not an alcoholic. If I can hold myself to 3 beers on St. Patrick's Day, then the world has been proven wrong. I have proved my point, and I really held on to that. And as I was doing that, I'm drifting from this group, this IOP with Jeannie, and bless her, because she called me regularly, and that becomes really important. Jeannie was great, because then she started having some of the group call me and check in, and they're calling me, and I'm like, yeah, everything's fine, I'm doing great, I told you it wasn't. I ended up stealing $5 from a friend and getting 2 40s, and it starts again, and it goes from 0 to 100. And I am back in it, and that lasts maybe 3 days. And my mom finds me, passed out in the bathroom. And she says, I will never forget her face. She looks at her little boy, and my mom says, I can't do this anymore. you're out. You're out. You're out of the house. I can't do that. And even then, in the depths of my addiction, I still remember thinking like, wow, I did this to her. Like, damn, that's pretty bad. And she kicked me out of the house, and it started. I went, called the one friend that would let me come in, and he said, yeah, you can come in. And I make it 2 more days maybe, and he starts hiding my booze. And when he started hiding the booze, it was like, okay, that's it. I'm done. I want to die. And I remember sitting on the couch. He hid the booze. I found it, you know, like I would. I mean, you know, I searched the whole house. I'd turn that place upside down to find it. And I'm sitting there, and like, you know, you got the options, and it was drink or die. And I had booze in one hand, gun in the other. And it was, this is it. What are you gonna do? And that's when Jeannie called me. And she called me, and then she's just like, hey, Rourke, how you doing? Just calling to check in, seeing how you're doing. Hope you're doing well. And, you know, I went with the old protocol. Everything's fine, doing great. This drinking thing's working out just fine. I don't have a problem. And she's like, cool, okay. You know, if anything happens, just give me a call. Hope you're doing well. And I got 5 more calls that day, and I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't ask, you know, no one knew what was going on. Just by dumb luck, you know, I got 5 calls that day of people just like, hey, we love you. Hope you're doing well. We want you to come back. For whatever reason, that was a spark that got me to go back. And you know, I promised Jeannie that I wasn't going to drink over. I called her up and I was like, I'm ready. I'm ready. And what do I do? And she's like, well, do you need to come back? And I said, you know, I'm going to make it through the weekend. She's like, I'll see you on Monday. Show up on Monday, and she'll attest to it, man. It was like night and day, bro. Like, if I was that kid with the hat down, I was like, you tell me what to do. And she did, man. She saved my life. She was there, and you know, she just loved on me. And all of a sudden, I was, you know, doing what she told me. You know, if she said jump, I said how high, and she got me into a program that worked for me. And I, you know, I haven't had a drink since that point. You know, I said at the beginning, I'm celebrating 10 years of recovery, and over those 10 years, I've really started to dedicate my life to understanding and advocating for and creating opportunity for anybody seeking recovery. I've gotten an opportunity to speak at the White House. I'm currently working on creating legislation for our state. The Attorney General appointed me to the first recovery committee of the state. I have been immensely blessed in my recovery, and it all started with one person calling me up and saying, hey, I hope you're doing okay. And then when I was ready, throwing out the rundown without a second thought and saying, we're going to help you right where you're at. If Centennial Peaks had not been here at the time that it was, there's not a chance, right? If, you know, this place gave me the opportunity to actually pursue the dreams. And, you know, when they say, like, if you're sober, you can do whatever you want. Like, I really believe that. For those who are afraid to ask for help, I mean, first, I get it. Like, I've been there. And it is scary. There's no taking that away from you. And I would never want to take that away from a person. It is scary. But it can, if you do that step, if you just make that little bit of effort to reach out just a little bit, I think most everybody will find that it becomes, they'll realize it's really easy, really fast. That first hurdle is the hardest one, and then it just picks up really quick. So, you know, just make that first little effort, and let's see if we can make it as easy as possible past that.